There are some people who don't enter a room loudly. They don't rush into conversations, don't interrupt to be noticed, don't compete for space. They sit quietly, listening, watching, absorbing. From the outside, they seem calm, reserved, maybe even distant. But inside, their mind is anything but quiet. Thoughts move constantly, layering over one another, replaying moments, interpreting tones, searching for meaning in things others barely register. These are the people who think too much, but do it in silence. Not because they have nothing to say, but because their inner world is too complex to release impulsively. While the world rewards fast opinions and instant reactions, they pause, and that pause is often misunderstood. Silence gets mistaken for emptiness. Slowness gets mistaken for weakness. But what's happening internally is depth. These minds don't skim life, they sink into it. They notice what was meant but not said, what shifted but wasn't acknowledged, what felt wrong even when everything looked fine. Their thinking doesn't shout, it echoes inward. If you've ever been told you're too quiet, too serious, too deep, or that you think too much, this video isn't about fixing you, it's about understanding you. Because there is a psychology behind people who think too much in silence, and it has far less to do with intelligence alone, and far more to do with sensitivity, nervous system wiring, and early emotional learning. People often assume deep thinkers are simply smarter or more analytical, but that's only part of the story. The truth is, deep thinking begins not in logic, but in perception. These individuals don't just process information, they absorb it. Sounds, expressions, pauses, emotional undercurrents. Their nervous system is tuned to nuance. Where others register events at surface level, they feel what's underneath first. Then, try to make sense of it. This is why two people can experience the same conversation and walk away with completely different impressions. One hears words, the other hears meaning. And once meaning is felt, the mind steps in to organize it, examine it, protect against it. This isn't overthinking by choice. It's a system designed to notice more. And noticing more means thinking more. Often, this pattern didn't begin as a personality trait. It began as an adaptation. Many silent overthinkers grew up in environments where emotional safety wasn't guaranteed, where moods shifted without warning, where silence carried information, where paying attention meant protection. As children, they learned to read rooms, to sense tension, to notice subtle changes in tone or behavior. They learned when it was safer to stay quiet than to speak, when observation was smarter than reaction. Over time, awareness became survival, and the mind learned a powerful equation. Depth equals safety. Thinking ahead prevents pain. Understanding reduces chaos. So their inner world expanded, not because it was encouraged, but because it had nowhere else to go. As adults, the environment may have changed, but the nervous system remembers. The mind keeps scanning, even when there's no immediate danger. It analyzes conversations after they end, replays interactions before sleep, searches for meaning in moments long past. From the outside, it looks like overthinking. Inside, it feels like vigilance, like preparation, like staying one step ahead of emotional harm. This is why people who think too much in silence are often mentally tired without understanding why. Their mind rarely rests, even when their body does. Psychologically, this is linked to high introspection and a highly active default mode network in the brain. This network becomes active when we're not focused on tasks, when the mind wanders, reflects, remembers, imagines. For silent thinkers, this network doesn't switch on occasionally. It runs almost constantly. One thought leads to a memory. The memory triggers a feeling. The feeling raises a question. The question searches for patterns. Before they realize it, they're no longer present in the moment. They're inside a loop of meaning. These loops don't feel optional, they feel necessary. Understanding feels grounding. Making sense of things feels like control. But there's a cost. When thinking never lands, it turns heavy. Reflection slowly shifts into rumination, and rumination feels productive at first. Like you're close to clarity, like one more pass through the thought will finally bring relief. But instead of resolution, the mind circles the same emotional territory, hoping repetition will become closure. This is where silent overthinkers get trapped. Not because they think deeply, but because their thinking has no endpoint. And this is where the difference matters. There is a form of deep thinking rooted in curiosity. It feels expansive, alive, exploratory. It asks, what does this mean? Then there's a form rooted in fear. It asks, what could go wrong? Both look the same from the outside. Both are quiet. Both are intense. But inside, one nourishes the mind, the other exhausts it. Many people live somewhere in between, naturally reflective minds shaped by early emotional uncertainty. This is why silence feels safer than speaking. Speaking exposes thoughts before they're fully formed. Silence allows control. It allows refinement. It allows protection. In a fast world, silence becomes a shield. But that shield comes with loneliness, not the loud kind, but the subtle kind. The feeling of being slightly out of sync. Conversations move faster than they're processing. Opinions are demanded before they're ready. By the time they've arrived at something meaningful, the moment has passed. So they stay quiet. And that quiet gets misread as disengagement, disinterest, or emotional distance. In reality, they're often the most attentive people in the room. They hear not just what's said, but what's avoided. They notice inconsistencies. They remember details others forget. This is also why relationships feel intense for them. They don't bond casually. They bond through meaning. Every interaction becomes part of a larger emotional map they're building internally. A delayed reply isn't just a delay, it's information. A shift in tone isn't just a mood. It's a signal. They attach depth before they realize how invested they've become. That depth creates empathy, loyalty, presence, but it also creates vulnerability. When others don't relate at the same depth, the disappointment cuts deeper. Not because they're fragile, but because they've built meaning where others haven't. And heartbreak for silent thinkers isn't loud. It's analytical. It lingers in unanswered questions long after the relationship ends. So, what's the solution? It's not thinking less. Telling a deep, silent thinker to stop overthinking is like telling a sensitive ear to stop hearing. The answer is grounding, giving thoughts somewhere to land. For some, that means returning to the body. Movement, breath, physical sensation that interrupts the mental loop. For others, it means expression, writing, music, art, translating inner complexity into form. When thoughts become external, they stop spinning, and sometimes grounding means allowing experience without interpretation, letting a moment be pleasant without asking why, letting sadness exist without dissecting its origin, presence without analysis. This feels uncomfortable at first because meaning has always felt like safety, but presence offers a different kind of regulation, one that doesn't demand answers. Healing for people who think too much in silence doesn't mean abandoning depth. It means learning when depth is no longer serving you. Maturity isn't thinking harder. It's carrying your thoughts without letting them pull you under. Depth was never meant to be a place to drown. It was meant to be a place to see clearly. If you've always felt slightly different, slightly slower, slightly more aware than the world around you, there's nothing wrong with you. Your mind was built for nuance, for reflection, for meaning. You don't think too much because you're broken. You think deeply because your system is designed that way. And when that depth is respected, grounded, and given space to breathe, it becomes wisdom instead of weight. If this felt familiar, if it put words to something you've been carrying quietly, you're not alone here. This channel exists for people who think deeply, feel quietly, and are learning how to live gently with both.